Okay, my outstanding friends, I'm going to cut right to the chase. Everybody knows there is a baby formula disaster going on. Well, I talked to my wife about this, who is trained as a registered nurse. She says, nobody used formula when we were growing up as kids. They all used a different mix of evaporated milk and cornstarch and so forth. And I said, you're kidding me. She said, no, nobody was fed with formula when I was little. And she said, well, they all made their own. And so I started looking it up, and sure enough, here's emergency baby formula. Now, this is just the opposite of what's happening now. They switched from breastfeeding to homemade formula. And then the water supply went bad. Listen to this. They made the switch. Okay, here it was. Even though I more and more successfully breastfed each of the 3 babies that followed and learned how to get off to a great start with breastfeeding, at that point in time we both reluctantly and gratefully relied on baby formula to help her grow. So they weren't breastfeeding. The problem was, however, that about a week after we had made the switch to full-time formula, which they made themselves, the water supply to their beautiful city of millions of people became tainted with E. coli. It was utterly undrinkable. Bottled water was severely limited. So they needed water to make their formula. It says, and as you likely know, no water means no formula, no food for our infant daughter. So they're making their own, and because the water supply went bad, they're in trouble. All right, so here's what they're saying. This is based on the World Health Organization's emergency baby formula recipe. It's a stopgap, stress-busting option when all other alternatives to feed your baby have run out. Whether that's because the baby formula is a shortage, a water crisis, a natural disaster, or just the chaos of life, you forgot to get it when you went to the grocery store, you can make your own. Okay, I'm going to leave it at this. This is just, I really don't have a whole lot of information in this arena. However, my wife said that every kid grew up with making their own baby formula when we were young. So they're doing it now, homemade infant formula. I'm going to put a link to this page, and you're going to have to handle it from there on your own. I'm not making any recommendations to do this. I'm not saying this is better for you than baby formula. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying right now this is a homemade emergency baby formula recipes. They just updated it a couple days ago because they knew we got in trouble. I was just talking to my wife again. She says absolutely nobody ever had formula. And this is in 1960. This is what they said to do to feed the baby. Now, I'm not saying do anything. But, if you're in trouble, you got to do something. So do a little research. Don't just take my word or anybody's word for it. And I'm not telling you to do anything. Again, never ever will I tell anybody to do anything. I'm just a researcher.